Hello, and welcome back to Bengal Bites, a podcast about the Cincinnati Bengals from a real, honest perspective. I'm your host, Derek. This is episode 123. This is the Week 17 preview episode, where the Cincinnati Bengals will play host to the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals come in with a record of 3-12. Bengals are favored by a touchdown in this game. They got their record up to 5-10 last week with their win against the downgraded Miami Dolphins, and it's looking like another meaningless victory for the home crowd will ensue this Sunday, but you never know. Anything could happen on any given Sunday, but these two teams are very different, not only in their expectations, but the way their season has played out. Most people probably didn't expect much from the Cardinals outside of Arizona, but you'd never expect the team to go 3-12 or 3 and whatever, but that's Kyler Murray's injury that has kept him out since week 6 has contributed to a lot of this team's success, kind of like how the Bengals season was short-circuited by Joe Burrow not being able to play for most of the games. Not too dissimilar. The one maybe bright spot for this Cardinals team coming in is their Pro Bowl tight end Trey McBride. He's been lighting up the league with catches and making big plays, and that's one of the biggest Achilles heels for this Bengals defense, or biggest weaknesses. I guess you can't have multiple Achilles heels. That wouldn't make any sense. But tight ends have dominated the Bengals defense all season, as we know. And that's going to be the big challenge. Can this Bengals defense rise to the challenge of Trey McBride? They don't have too many other weapons, though, offensively. They've got a couple backup running backs because James Conner got hurt. Former Bengal right tackle Jonah Williams has gone on to injured reserve. The Cardinals have more money on their salary cap on injured reserve than any other team in the NFL right now. If we go over the cap.com, we can see APY on reserve for the 2025 season. Arizona Cardinals right now are number one or last, whichever way you want to look at it, but they have the most money on injured reserve, $121 million. Next to them at second place is the Browns at $93 million. So a huge gap between the Cardinals and number 2. That's mostly for the Browns because they've got Deshaun Watson, but the Cardinals, they've got a quarterback. Kansas City, they're at number 3. They've got a quarterback at Patrick Mahomes on that list now. Bengals are more towards the middle or even less. They've only got $40 million on injured reserve. Most of that's in Trey Hendrickson being out right now. So Bengals have been relatively healthy, and they're going to be healthy going into this game. The only people who are going to be out for the Bengals definitively are going to be Cam Grandy, the tight end, got hit in the chest on his only catch last week. I think it was almost a manufactured catch for Cam Grandy, and it's like, oh, thanks, coach, got me that catch, got me hurt, now I'm out. And then Charlie Jones is also going to be out with that ankle injury he suffered a few weeks ago. He's still out. We're probably going to see, I think, what was that guy's name? Keyshawn Williams returning punts and kicks this time. He looked like he had more juice than Charlie Jones. Matt Lee is he's starting to practice coming back from a knee injury that's kept him on injured reserve, but he's still going to be out this week. Joseph Osai, defensive end, is going to continue to be out again with that ankle injury he also suffered. So Osai and Charlie Jones. BJ Hill is questionable. Noah Fant, questionable. Josh Newton, questionable on Friday with a hamstring. That's a new injury for Josh Newton. PJ Jules should be coming back. He does not have any injury designation. But looking at the Cardinals coming into this game, they've got a number of guys out, including Budda Baker, their Pro Bowl safety. He's not going to be playing in this game. That's going to be a big loss for the Cardinals. They're also going to be without Evan Brown, their starting left guard. He is out with some kind of personal reasons. Obviously, they don't say what that means, but he's not going to play in this game. Also, one of their starting cornerbacks, Kytrell Clark, had a back injury this week. He did not practice. Left tackle Paris Johnson did not practice with a knee injury. He is out. Josh Sweat is questionable. He did not practice, but he's one of their starting outside linebackers, pass rushers, edge defenders, whatever you want to call them. He's questionable. That would be a big loss if he wasn't able to play. The center for the Cardinals is questionable. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been dealing with all kinds of injuries this season. He's currently dealing with a knee. He previously had a concussion, and he also had his appendix removed at one point during the season. Rough season for him. He's questionable. Hasn't played very well, but not a surprise when you're dealing with all those injuries. Will Johnson, Max Melton, Jalen Thompson are all questionable. That's pretty much the entire Arizona Cardinals secondary is either out or questionable. They're Budda Baker, one of their starting safeties, one of their starting quarterbacks, Kytrell Clark, is going to be out. So things should bode well for this Cincinnati Bengals offense going up against a beat-up Arizona Cardinals defense. And like the announcers have said in the past couple games for the Cardinals, even though their record is what it is, I think they won the first 2 games of the season, then they've gone like 1-11 since then, but there's no quit in this team, and they're all professionals. They are going to come to Cincinnati, and whoever they have out on the field is going to be ready to play, I'm sure. Even if they've got nothing to play for, this season has been over for a long time. But so is the Bengals. So it's not like either team has any more motivation than the other one to play. I guess you could say the Bengals should be motivated to play because they're the home team. They've got Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase going out there. But outside of just getting statistics and, when they go to get their next contract, Joe Burrow and T. Higgins can say, hey, when we were injured, we still fought through it and played for this team. So that's going to make them look even better maybe in the future. But other than that, not a whole lot to play for in this game. So it would be nice if we could see some younger players start to get some more action. Like, as much as I want to see T. Higgins do well and score and all that stuff, what about, getting Andre Iosivas, Miss Tinsley, some of these other guys a little bit more experience? Throw them the ball. I mean, Joe Burrow, if he's out there, he's going to throw it to T. He's not going to throw it to Andre Iosivas. So if you just, don't give him any other options than to throw to Andre, is what I'm saying, basically. But I'm just trying to think of, it doesn't matter if they win or lose. So T. Higgins already has plenty of accolades, plenty of confidence in himself and what he can do. I want to see what some of these other guys can do who haven't had as many opportunities to really show it so far this season. And, there's nothing else. There's nothing to lose, like I said. So they might as well just, I guess Charlie Jones can't go out there, but some of these draft picks who haven't got to play, McKinley Jackson, those type of players should be out there getting this experience if they're going to be contributing to the team next year. They can't get rid of the entire roster. And I know, getting ahead of myself, but I've just been hearing everywhere, the Bengals this offseason, they got to go out and get, a starting 4 or 5 different starters on offense and on defense. And, the reality is quality free agents are hard to come by. It's rare that an NFL team is going to just let a guy walk out of their building who has, the talent and the ability to be a quality starter for multiple years to come. They're probably going to sign that guy to a contract to stay with them. Like we saw with TJ Slayton, there is a reason why the Green Bay Packers let him go, even though he got drafted there. They were fine not re-signing him to a contract and letting him go to the Bengals because he's not that good. So guys who are just like Pro Bowlers, like Trey Hendrickson, as soon as he got to the Bengals, all of a sudden his career turned around. People think that's so easy, but that's the exception rather than the rule. A big part of it comes down to how well the team does in the draft. And that's the thing that the Bengals have not done a good job of lately. Like, if it would be one thing if they had so many players on the roster that they drafted that, oh, what are we going to do? We can't sign everybody. All these draft picks are just so good, like Zach Taylor would have you believe. But not very many of the Bengals players. I mean, a few Bengals players get signed by other teams when they go into free agency. But for the most part, if the Bengals have a good player, they're going to try to keep him on their roster. And most other teams operate in a similar fashion. But turning back to this Cardinals matchup, Jacoby Brissett, he's been playing in place of Kyler Murray, and he's obviously beaten the Bengals with the Patriots last season. He's going to be playing in his 100th career game. He started in place of Andrew Luck when Andrew Luck surprise retired it for the Colts in Indianapolis. So Jacoby Brissett has been around. He's not going to be one of these Quinn Ewers for the Miami Dolphins getting his first start. He's had 99 of these games before. He's got plenty of experience. So it's going to be a much different type of contest than we saw last week. I wouldn't expect it to be a blowout. I expect the Cardinals to keep it close. But I still expect the Bengals to just have too much talent offensively to overwhelm this Cardinals defense. I think the Bengals, no matter what happens, they're going to put up too many points. It could be a high-scoring game, but just the Cardinals' offense, the way they've been playing, they've not put up a lot of points. Cardinals' offense, somehow they're 16th overall, 7th in passing, but only 27th in rushing, 21st in scoring. That's the most important thing. Bengals are tied for 14th in scoring offensively, 21st in points. Actually, the Cardinals' offense has more passing yards than the Bengals, but there was some games with Joe Flacco and Jake Browning in there, and Joe Burrow not playing his best. So neither one of these defenses is great. Bengals are last overall in yards and points allowed. Cardinals are 29th in points allowed on defense. So it could be a high-scoring game with not a lot of defense in this game. On defense, maybe one of the bright spots has been at outside cornerback. DJ Turner and Dax Hill have both looked pretty good. Obviously, DJ Turner is getting more of the accolades because he's got the most pass breakups in the NFL so far this season. And he was an fifth alternate for the Pro Bowl, or maybe third alternate. I don't know. I think somehow Charlie Jones was fifth alternate because he had that one touchdown. But DJ Turner, he didn't make it to the Pro Bowl this year, probably because he's on, like we just said, the worst defense in the NFL. So it's hard to make it to the Pro Bowl when you're playing on the worst defense. But he has been making some plays, especially in the pass game. Haven't seen too much of DJ Turner in the run game, but maybe that's why, they probably don't study the tape when they're selecting Pro Bowlers. But from a passing game perspective, DJ Turner has looked pretty good. But they are going to have a tough matchup in Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. just because both those guys are big physical receivers, not the quickest, fastest guys, but that may play into DJ Turner's advantage. He can get in position and break up passes from Jacoby Brissett. That's where it's going to fall on those rookie linebackers to make sure Trey McBride doesn't just go crazy in the second level of this Bengals defense. But these two teams have not met very frequently. They've only played 13 times. I don't see how that's possible because the Cardinals have been around for over 100 years, but they're NFC West. They don't play each other that often. Bengals lead 7-6. Cincinnati has won 6 of 8 in Cincinnati. Maybe that's one of the benefits of being on the East Coast time zone. Arizona's coming out from a couple hours behind. Their bodies aren't used to the... It's going to be warm, though. It's going to be in the 60s and a chance of rain for this game at Paycor Stadium. Tickets, if you want to go, are as low as about $20. You can get them online. Not a huge interest in this game, and I don't blame them. Like, who wants to go sit outside in December to watch two teams who are already eliminated from the playoffs, especially the Arizona Cardinals? I can't think of a worse team coming in to play the Bengals at this time of season. Like, why would the NFL do this? Nobody is interested in the Arizona Cardinals playing the Cincinnati Bengals like 3 days after Christmas. But weird way they figure this schedule out. Because what if the Bengals were good? Like, this would be very anticlimactic way to be going into the playoffs. And like, if this game meant something, I don't know. It wouldn't be like the matchup of the week. But even though it's not the matchup of the week, they're going to have a decent announced crew. Kevin Kugler and Daryl Johnson are calling this game on Fox. And I am hopeful that this game is going to be broadcast in my local area instead of Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Last week, I didn't get the game in my area because they were playing Bills-Browns instead of Dolphins-Bengals. So I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully I can watch this game over the air. But the Cardinals play in a tough division. I mean, if you look at the NFC West where the Cardinals are playing, the leaders are the Seahawks at 12-3. But then right behind them, they've got the Rams at 11-4. And the 49ers also at 11-4. Then you got all the way down at the bottom, the Arizona Cardinals 3-12. So huge discrepancy between all the other teams. And they basically just beat up on the Cardinals. And Cardinals were like the punching bag at the NFC West. They played a lot of good football teams. They know what good football teams look like. And if there's anything they can do, I mean, the Cardinals have played more players. I think they've played 80 players in a game this season, which is more than any other team. If I look at this, looking at the game preview, the Cardinals have 23 players on injured reserve right now. That's the most in the NFL. The second most in the NFL is the Miami Dolphins with 18. So the Cardinals have even more players injured and unavailable than the Miami Dolphins, who the Bengals just dismantled last week. So Cardinals, they could take a similar route and just kind of lay down for the Bengals, which would be kind of disappointing. I want the Bengals to win, but I want it to be a good game still. So like, I'm kind of rooting for the Cardinals to not just be completely garbage and at least, make it interesting, make it a fight. Like if you go any kind of a competition, you want to see a little bit of back and forth. Like if it's just completely one-sided, it's not even interesting. Even if it's, I guess unless you're one of these people who like loves college football and you love watching your team win 75-0, over like the Division II school that's coming in for $500,000 or whatever. That's not necessarily that entertaining to me as a football fan of the game. But I don't know what is entertaining. You'll have to tell me right in the comments. Is this podcast even entertaining? It's funny. I went back and I wanted to listen to some episodes from the beginning of this season to see like what was I talking about during the preseason? What did I think was going to happen? And it's funny because when I listen to myself, first of all, everybody hates listening to themselves, hates listening to the sound of their own voice. But when I was listening to myself, I sounded like really negative and down on the Bengals, down on the team, not the kind of attitude somebody would expect for a preseason Bengals podcast. I would expect more hope and optimism if I was listening to that. But I gotta say I was right, because I was saying that this Bengals defense looked terrible. And guess what? This Bengals defense has been terrible this entire season. I was not wrong. So it's hard to, try to make a podcast that people will want to listen to, but also try to be correct. Try to get things, factually accurate and not drink the Kool-Aid. That's the biggest thing is everybody every year, they get into the off season, they buy all the hype, they drink the Kool-Aid, what the team is saying about free agents and draft picks. And everybody says, oh, the preseason games don't matter at all. You can completely disregard that. They're just, they're not really showing their real strategy. They're playing everything close to the vest. Don't worry about it. But I guess I just can't be that way, which I know is a downer for some people. It's like if you're going to go watch a movie, I'd be like on the way there, like, oh, I heard this movie's going to suck. I heard this movie was terrible. All the previews that came out about this movie said this movie was like the worst movie ever. Nobody wants to hear that. I understand that. But I don't know. Just with my own analysis, I saw what I saw. I say what I see. And what I saw from the Bengals in this offseason leading up to this season was not good. Everybody said What was the line we heard all offseason from everybody? Well, defense couldn't possibly be any worse than it was in 2024 because they were so bad. Couldn't get any worse, but then they didn't do anything to make the defense any better. They swapped out their 2 veteran linebackers for 2 rookie linebackers who are way worse than Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson. They didn't do anything to address the defensive secondary. They had the exact same guys that they had last season who were not any good. The defensive line was mostly the same except for one guy in TJ Slayton. They had a draft pick coming in the first round who didn't even play for most of this season, held out training camp, got injured, hasn't really done much when he's been on the field. It was all supposed to be remedied by Al Golden, who was going to have the Midas touch with all these guys, and he wasn't going to be mean and a disciplinarian like Coach Lou Anarumo, and it wasn't going to be so complicated. It was going to be more simplified, something these guys could handle. Well, simple really didn't work. In fact, simple got them blown away in most of these games. So now they're making things more complicated, and they're talking about how that's working. I think it's another instance of they're starting to play teams who don't have anything left to play for. They're playing backup quarterbacks. They're not really that good, and that, by extension, makes the Bengals defense look good. And I know these guys have a lot of pride, so they're not. They want to play better than they have been. They want to go out and put better film, put better play on film than they have been. So I get that. Not saying they can't learn from their past mistakes. Plenty of players have been making mistakes and still playing, like Geno Stone. He's obviously not coming back next season, but he's continuing to start at safety for the Bengals defense. Mystifying why Geno Stone is still out there missing tackles every week. But all these guys, they're not about tanking. None of these guys are trying to lose the game intentionally. No, they don't care anything about draft picks, draft positioning, anything like that. They want to win every game. Now, around the NFL, we've seen plenty of teams not playing some of their best players. A lot of players go along with that. We saw in Las Vegas, Max Crosby. He's one of those guys who has fought through injury and played every game this season, but he's only missed 2 games in his career, I think. And so he's one of these guys who thinks of himself like an Iron Man. Whether they're in it or not, he wants to go out and give everything he has. They told him they didn't want him to play for the last 2 games of the season, and he stormed out of the facility, got all upset about it, and left the team. So some guys want to play. They don't want to tank and lose games or sit out and let their team lose games so they can get a better draft pick. But the Las Vegas Raiders are playing the New York Giants. They are both tied for the worst record in the NFL right now. So this game could come down to who gets the first pick in the NFL draft. It's going to be interesting to see how hard do either one of these teams try to actually win the game, because it would be much better to get that number 1 overall pick. But again, players and coaches always want to win. Organizationally, maybe whoever owner could make some decisions for the team, say, hey, so-and-so who's been fighting through injury, well, you're going on the injured reserve for the rest of the season. Things like that can happen. But we haven't seen that with the Bengals. I guess, to their credit, they haven't been shutting guys down early. We saw T. Higgins come out and play with a modified helmet. He said the helmet he was wearing last week, after getting checked out by the concussion doctor, who said, okay, yeah, go back out there and get hit in the head again, even though that's what gave you the concussion in the first place. He's got a new helmet, which makes you wonder, why wasn't he wearing the more protective helmet that prevents concussions, supposedly, prior to getting the concussion, or after the first concussion? Why wasn't he wearing it after then? Why did it have to take multiple concussions before he changed up the helmet? And he still doesn't wear the Guardian cap, which is weird. So it makes me question T. Higgins and the advice he's maybe getting or not getting from the team doctors within the Bengals. They should be doing everything to prevent him from getting more concussions. And I don't know. It's just weird. But again, I'm going to be hoping, number one, for no injuries for anybody, for both teams. I don't want to see anybody from the Cardinals get injured or the Bengals. We saw Walter Nolan, the guy who got picked right before the Bengals were going to select their draft pick this past draft. The Cardinals had the 16th pick, Bengals had the 17th pick. Cardinals picked Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, I think he was, and Bengals, of course, picked Shamar Stewart right after that. A lot of people had projected Walter Nolan going to the Bengals because that was one of their biggest needs, defensive interior. But he has missed a lot of games this season as well. I think he's got better statistics than Shamar Stewart, but he was out with a calf injury for about 7 games, and then he just went down with some kind of a knee injury. It sounds like he's going to be out and maybe requiring surgery. I didn't see what exactly the knee injury was, but it didn't sound good. He looked like he was in tears getting carted off the field last week. So that's the type of injury you never want to see from anybody, especially this late in the season when it's a meaningless game. I don't want to see anybody get injured that way. But it's so strange getting ready for these games because I'm going to watch the games no matter what. Like I said, I'm in it for the long haul. But it is weird that the Bengals are already out of it. Like, it's been so many years where they at least had a chance. They were at least, if they won out, the games meant something. And there was some excitement at least. And so I was saying before they got eliminated, maybe it would be a little bit of a relief. But now that they are eliminated, it's like, I kind of miss that feeling of the tension, the anxiety, the not knowing whether they would pull it off or not. Now that you know there's no chance of pulling it off, some of the fun's taken out of it, I'm not going to lie. But nothing we can do about it but get as much enjoyment out of the rest of these remaining 2 games as we can, because it's going to be a long offseason after this for sure with no playoffs. Got to suck everything out of these games that we can. Get every last drop. So, Bengals, I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction because why not? It's, what I say, a high-scoring game, but it was going to be close. I'm going to say Bengals go over 30. And Cardinals are going to get into the 20s at least. I'm going to say a weird score. Something like Bengals 36, Cardinals 29. That's a weird score. I don't know if that's a scoregami, but I don't know how that would even happen. But maybe a block kick somewhere. Who knows? 36-29 Bengals is what I'm going with in this one. Bengals are going to get to that 6th win. They're probably going to finish 7-10. And, who cares about draft positioning? But it's just going to be one of those things where all offseason, it's going to give the Bengals franchise, we started strong and we finished strong, and just the middle part we got to work on now. But we got the momentum. Oh, God. So here we go. But on that note, tell me what you think. Are the Bengals going to win? Does it even matter? Let me know in the comments. And until next time, I'm going to leave you with a hooday and stay hungry for more Bengal Bites.